Ita Eda City Sivarai, stories from NCD that matter to you. Governor Powes Parkop's single-minded focus brings the gender-based violence campaign to the Parliament's doorstep.
We are leaders. We represent both men and women. We are not speaking out enough.
A coalition of parliamentarians vow their support for ending the pandemic. Infrastructure and development gets a big push from the planning team at the City Hall. 9 Mile Settlement takes its first step towards becoming a suburb.
In 10 years' time, this place will be a totally different place altogether.
The spotlight turns to Port Moresby as it faces an unprecedented threat from COVID-19. The governor and his task force strategize a tightrope act between health and economy. All this and more on Ita Eda City Sivarai. The 9 Mile Settlement began a historic journey, a tryst with development. This groundbreaking ceremony came after decades of living in squalor, bringing with it a promise of a new life.
Never at one point in time, one black government of Papua New Guinea, one black governor or one black local MP taking initiative, converting settlement, ego come up suburb. And for the very first time, today you become looking, change and come up. Now Bami Black is in power, Bami Black is in land title, Bami Black is in water, Bami Black every toilet, Bami Black is in the house, Bami Black. It is because of Honorable Governor Powes Parkop. So all the displaced stakeholders, but boom, they're making place play, we come up suburb. If one of them is missing, it is not going to be a suburb. You must cooperate. We formed the association as a result of eviction or leaders law settlement. You must talk to interest law tasol.
Our officers and administratively NCD assistants are prepared to work with you all. It's a two-way thing. You play work one time, we play work one time, now by me delivering this project.
That's the day you've been waiting long plot time. Long plot time to mass. You mean nearly 45 to 50 years late. That some of you mean begin to think that it's a right way of life or acceptable way of life. We have to end that mindset. That's what thinking you must finish. We cannot continue to live in this type of situation. With the title time you sim, of course you can go to the bank now, sim loan now, work in business blow you, build better house, starting some project blow you. It will address poverty. It will address health issue too. All this law and order issue or problem you make got bigger person. You start to continue working. You by losing title blow you. This is part of the equation. And it starts with you and me.
I want to tell you the people of Rona Quarry today, the king of the settlement, the experienced guy who live in the settlement is me. I come from the settlement, like people you are here today. Services block government, by come you got road go, and power by come, water by come.
Conversion of settlement to urbanization program will become part of national government program for the next 10 years. And we will start now. Respect for each other in wherever we are living and respect for the rule of law. Once you start to respect, everything else will fall in place neatly. Ino Tari doesn't stop. Ino Ega doesn't stop. Ino Sibu doesn't stop. Ino Manus doesn't stop. Ino Papua doesn't stop. Country believe me, God bless him with them. Diversity of culture. And you mean supposed to respect him. That diversity of culture where we live. Mela give me respect him all motu koitana koyari. And you mean work one time partnership with governor, with national government. I know we all can make this country a better place for our children and not ourselves.
But 9 Mile reserved its special affection for the Urban Development and Housing Minister Justin Chichenko. Overwhelmed with gratitude of his support, they tried to stake claim on him for 2022. even paying his nomination fee of 1,000 kina.
Justin Chesango, you are very important to us. Naimal Quarry, blog holders lawyer will not come to Mosby South in 2022 to give you a vote. Chesango, people passing one block people outside. On top of that, your nomination fee for 2022 will be paid off in cash today.
Even though you are presenting me a pig and paying my nomination fee in 2022, what I did was my job. But I thank you for that kind gesture, and I don't want you to make all my Mosby South people jealous.
The city has 100 unplanned settlements. 300,000 of our population is living in settlements. That is 30% of the city. The National Capital District Commission started work on the Settlement to Suburbs plan in 2016. The first phase of the project covers 50 acres of settlements. The pilot project will be replicated across other parts of the city. The 10-year strategy aims to end settlements in the city by 2026. A neglected agenda finally finds mention in the highest place of power in the country. Gender-based violence being championed as a top priority by two governors, intent on systematically dismantling the barriers for gender equality one at a time. The irony of the location couldn't have been greater. Meters away from the high-level meeting lay a chamber which has zero representation from women. But on a special August afternoon, change was sought. No, demanded. Governors, the police minister, members of parliament, the police, the United Nations, and the civil society came together for a first-of-its-kind consultative meeting.
We are here at State Function Room, just on the other side of this parliament. 100% men. Everywhere, dominated by men. In business, it's still dominated by men. In NCDC, for example, only 30% or less than that are women. So we have a long way to go. We cannot ignore gender-based violence. It's an human rights issue, and we must recognize it.
And it is incumbent upon those of us who have a voice to speak up for those who cannot, and to ensure that there is protection for those who need it.
Violence against women and girls is one of the most pervasive violations of human rights, and yet one of the least prosecuted. In this sense, again, we applaud Governor Parkop's your comprehensive approach, which will pave the way for resourcing the first fully fledged NCD Gender-Based Violence Secretariat, and has 8 streams of work that are going to be fundamental from a prevention and servicing.
On 16th of September 2018, a complaint was laid with the police for an assault. Today, 24th August 2020, I am still waiting for a date to be set for the pre-trial hearing. Why must I carry this burden of proof? My case and my fight is for every citizen in this country silently struggling.
When a nation says priority comes with funding. When we are not given that attention, it just shows all the people that we deal with. Within NCD, you have an Office of Child and Family Services. I would encourage you to take that office on board under your social sector.
Whether this country is going to change or not, it's going to hinge on our police force. And I've already put the police force on notice, because we have an ACP for traffic, we have an ACP for the 4 regions, NCD and Central, for Highlands, East and Western, NGI, New Guinea Islands. We have ACP for traffic, ACP for crimes. So the focus now is we're going to have an ACP for family sexual violence. Right now, the family sexual violence structure is not formally part of the police structure. We're already earmarking a number of vehicles that will come out and be designated additional resources to family sexual violence.
We have to use the tribes and the clans, their leaders out there, their chiefs. They have to be part of this effort. This cannot be only for the educated, the middle class, the affluent.
So the resources attached to that for the FSU to actually do their job is quite scarce. You can't just put any police officer. There have to be police officers who have been trained and prepared to counsel, to have patience and listen to I don't like to call them victims, I like to call them survivors.
Funds invested in prevention help us saving a lot of funds further down the line.
And then came the time for tangible action and a vow taken by these drivers of change.
We have a coalition of the willing.
I've extended the invitation to all our brother governors. We will adopt a GBP strategy in our provinces.
With the governors, we are able to some extent to commit resources rather than wait around for national government.
Reform our behavior and that of the institution we lead and be role models in our families and community.
With the judiciary, one of the things we were thinking about is to have a separate track for gender-based violence in the court.
Collectively join forces and lobby for political will at the highest level.
Empowering women as a means to breaking the cycle of violence.
The journey starts now. It starts now. The time is now.
The coalition of parliamentarians grew in just 2 days, courtesy of a very persistent NCD governor. At the City Hall, when 8 governors met to discuss decentralization of power, a new agenda was doggedly pursued by the host.
So part of my job is to disrupt all of us. We are leaders. We represent both men and women. And we are not speaking out enough. Because at the end of the day, it's about the quality of life of our people. We have to push the national government to fund the strategy. But we can be leaders in the provinces.
When we see you, the 22 of you represent the whole of Papua. NCDC has a very good strategy now. Would you be willing to come together in a coalition with others? When you talk about big issues and important issues like decentralization and the other governance issues, that you're also mindful that there is this issue of gender-based violence.
You may look him all very, maybe not as a human being, but something Hamas in man. So we need to break down all these barriers.
A video presentation and emotional speeches later came an immediate positive response.
Gender-based violence that is out of control in the country. And what something amounts to the efficiency of the police prosecution. I think we are all on board, so we will set up a parliament to power.
The governors of Enga, Isipik, Hela, Morobe, Oro, Southern Highlands, West New Britain, and of course NCD put their full political weight behind the cause of gender-based violence. Those who couldn't attend also conveyed their firm support. Next day, as Parliament reconvened, a man on a mission raised the issue of gender-based violence on the floor, asking the government to bring foreign support to help build police capacity. The Prime Minister, joining the growing chorus against gender-based violence, acknowledged that the law and order systems were not effective. He said a parliamentary committee on GBV will determine outside help as mooted by the governor. There will be dedicated desks in every police station nationwide to address GBV complaints. And greater accountability from the police, who need to prosecute the perpetrators or face disciplinary action. A small but significant victory for the coalition of parliamentarians, led by the governors. By the 1st of September, 20 leaders had joined the coalition. Outside the parliament, a protest unfolded. Cutting through the clutter, through the noise, dressed in black, they protested silently, their silence more eloquent than any speech. The mask tapes on their faces, symbolic of their unheard voices for decades. But not anymore, they said.
We've been abused, we've been killed, we've been murdered, we've been tortured, we've been silenced. So women have been silenced for a very long time.
On the ground, the Settlement to Suburbs project tied in with the aspirations of the community. After living without roads, power, water, sanitation for decades, their hopes are now pinned on service and infrastructural development. With their future at stake, the community was bound to be anxious. At this weekend community engagement session, concerns were raised about allocation, eviction, and deposit payments. The National Capital District Commission team, led by Senior Planner Kemo, had a tough audience to get through. Over 300 pieces of land were to be allocated to current residents in this area, but the NCDC was clear that there will be no free handout. To make the community more accountable, each lot owner was expected to give an initial deposit of 4,000 kina, followed by 35,000 kina for the land. Though subsidized, this component adds to the cost of bringing basic services to the settlement, which is a whopping 30 million kina. Convincing the community to be part of this equation was just one of the challenges.
Let's not be greedy. Okay, we are going through the allocation. We want to allocate quickly. The allocation needs to be done accurately. So it needs to be fair, and we are working with a policy. If you're paying 4,000 upfront, now we can allocate.
On a Monday morning mid-August, these people waited for information on their land allocation by the NCDC. They were given a letter, a piece of paper that held the key to a better future. The long-term social implications of the project were the biggest motivation.
What brought us together to form the association is that we all understood at the time that we were living on a land without any legal title. So we sort of illegal settlers living on this land. So we formed the association, and the main purpose of forming the association was to secure the title for the block holders here. We have issues with water, we have issues with electricity. A lot of illegal connections are happening here. We have problems with road access to our allotments areas, sewage problem. As I can visualize, in 10 years' time, this place will be a totally different place altogether. And of course, I believe we will live in estates like Kennedy Estate. We'll be living like people who are living in suburbs like Korobosea, Boroko.
Now, PNG is a digital world now. The country is changing, the world is changing, so we don't need to stay like this. We need to move with the system. We need to stand up and go with the system so that, we can see some change. Maybe our kids can see some change.
Some of the residents readily demolished their own house, which was on the area reserved for a road.
The block holders agreed to demolish the buildings. They signed a statutory declaration. We brought lawyers here to come and sign, and they all agreed to have their houses demolished, irrespective of the value of the house or development that they put in their blocks.
The pioneers, as the 9 Mile community call themselves, are definitely setting the way. The 9 Mile Settlement to Suburbs project is only a small part of a bigger plan. In the last decade, Port Moresby has experienced a massive population explosion, largely due to urban drift. This has led to unplanned, informal, and sometimes illegal habits to mushroom across the city. That's where the NCDC Master Plan comes in, a blueprint for Port Moresby's development.
This plan is critical because it gives the visioning for Port Moresby City in spatial planning and development. Keeping pace with development is quite a challenge, as I said, because not so much the formal development, which is an issue, it's so much of the informalities that is an issue for the department, and also the awareness of people just knowing that they're able to come to the department to have the statutory approvals that they get before they build, before they trade. Before they sell liquor or before they just open up a business.
The master plan is conceptualized towards Vision 2030, which is looking to make Port Moresby a connected and integrated city. This plan provides a statutory police framework for land use, physical development, and infrastructure services. The 3 guiding themes are livable city, productive city, and sustainable city. The master plan created by the NCDC's Planning Division takes into account creating urban clusters, development of housing projects, transport and utilities, recreation corridors, open space, and zoned land in the right locations. But it is the impact projects such as the one at 9 Mile that gets priority for a long-term holistic development.
Informal settlements in any developing country have a negative connotation to it. So people think that they're the lower income earners, they're no good for the city, they create problems for the city. But as you do the demographic studies in these settlement groups, you find out that a lot of them come for opportunities for education, they come to work for employment, they're here for the basic services that they would not get from the areas that they've migrated from.
Capital city, now the hotspot for coronavirus.
Nobody knows this virus, COVID-19, unknown, have no cure.
Community transmission became a reality in crowded Port Moresby, with clusters emerging in some parts of Port Moresby. The numbers spiraling at an alarming rate forced the leaders to take tough action.
Let me assure our people that the task force and all our team that is rolling out the strategy that we have adopted is working very hard, doing all we can to make sure that we achieve the outcome that we want to achieve.
But protect yourself. Look after yourself and your family. No mask, no entry. So when you go to the markets, for example, buy what you need and leave. Go home. It's simple. Don't stand around and waste your time in a particular area.
Some probably act as a special Superman. That is like simply because our human system is too strong. That be like a pillar. So you may try hiding to, not be hiding.
It became imperative to increase testing capacity to stop the spread. With pressure building on the already fragile healthcare system, St. John Ambulance, along with the support from the New Zealand government and the Department of Health, came up with a new model for sampling and testing. This drive-through center, a pilot project, represented resourcefulness at its best.
The inspiration behind starting this piece was to make it easier more discreet for people to get tested for COVID-19 here in Papua New Guinea. In the first 7 days, we collected around 1/3 of the nation's samples in that same period. We're seeing around, on average, 50 per day. A facility like this helps with the national response to the coronavirus pandemic. By helping to identify people that are sick and need treatment for the coronavirus, it's important that we can isolate these people away from unaffected persons so that we can slow the spread of the virus here in Papua New Guinea.
The next goal was sensitizing the community to COVID-19 best practices. In a bid to drive awareness and PPE distribution, Port Moresby was categorized into 3 areas: urban clusters, settlements, and villages. At this event, the public servants vowed their support to the frontline workers in the COVID-19 campaign. The non-essential staff joined the health team to spread awareness and PPE to various parts of the city during the lockdown period.
This important initiative will be a joint initiative of the Department of Prime Minister NCD, Community Development, and Department of Personal Management, but not limiting the support and involvement of so many others, including NCD, including police, including army, including other stakeholders who are concerned for our citizens.
People are not talk person, people are online to implement them, church network, NGO, youth, all get aligned, all our disability group, all our elderly group, everyone. By taking ownership and bringing display information to all our people.
I'm here to fully support the Prime Minister and our team at the national level. We have to work together. This is a time for us to work as one people, as one country, having one future only. The price of not cooperating and not supporting each other is very high. The price of not listening and adhering to the protocol is very high.
It's just to remind us that we belong to a special group of Papua New Guineans. So of the 300,000 public servants throughout the length and breadth of our country, if we are consuming 180 million kina a fortnight, that amounts to 4.6 billion kina a year. So in times like this, when the nation is facing tough adversity, problem, the onus is on each and every one of us to rally in and rally together to the call of duty the nation requires.
Meanwhile, Port Moresby faced another battle, one against the mindset of the public. Complacency, disbelief, conspiracy theories turned up as immediate challenges for the health workers and volunteers aiming to create awareness about COVID-19. The team spread to the city's 3 districts: Moresby South, Moresby Northeast, and Moresby Northwest. Basic health tips, hygienic practices were taught through intensive sessions during the 2-week lockdown period.
You must be satisfied with them. You want to walk a little corner block and blow you. You can rub him, because Pinatani and so pass inside just a little out there.
But the biggest battle was to reconcile the health protocols to the ground realities of the settlements, where basic services like water, waste disposal are in short supply.
Thank you.
So the awareness team, along with key support from NGOs, introduced the Tipi Tap to areas which have no access to running water. The simple device is built from locally sourced material, such as the water container, few poles, strings, and a bar of soap. Easy to use and easy to maintain, the Tipi Tap became one of the health tools to keep the community safe during the pandemic.
Let's seize this moment, Port Moresby. We are capital city of our nation. This city of Port Moresby is unique in our country. There's no other place like Port Moresby in Papua New Guinea. And I'm determined to lead our city, continue to lead to overcome this challenge.
Despite the many challenges from GBV to health to infrastructure, Port Moresby is taking great strides in changing the city one bit at a time. The journey has begun.